Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about what I read in December. Today is the 15th of December, so we are currently halfway through the month and there are only 10 days until Christmas, which is so exciting. Last night I finished my first book of the month, and that is The Snow Spider. Now this book I enjoyed a lot more than I expected to, because within the first 70 pages I was like, okay, this book is just alright, but after that it just started feeling so magical and wintry that I just enjoyed it so much. I ended up giving this book 4.6 stars. So let's dive into what this book is actually about. It follows this 9-year-old boy called Gwyn, whose nan gives him 5 objects for his birthday, and these objects are seemingly really random. So we have a brush, a piece of dried seaweed, a tin whistle, a scarf, and a broken toy horse. And what his nan tells him is that these objects will help him figure out if he is a magician, and turns out he is. So first we have the brush, which he gives to the wind in return for a snowflake, and this snowflake turns into a snow spider, hence the name of the book. The next thing he gives to the wind is a tin whistle, which he receives in return a pipe that allows him to hear sounds from other worlds. The next thing is the seaweed, which caused a magical ship to fall from the sky. And the next thing was the yellow scarf, which belonged to his younger sister Bethan, who was wearing it on the night she disappeared. And here's the thing, a girl called Arian Wen comes out of this spider web and looks eerily like his younger sister Bethan, but a lot more paler. She's kind of like the snow version of Bethan, and she comes from this other world. And the last thing was the broken toy horse, which he accidentally gives to the wind, and that releases chaos. This story also takes place during winter, and at the end there's Christmas and New Year's, so this book really just set the mood for the month. As you can see, this book is really quite short, and I just wish it was a little bit longer. The next book I have here, which I am almost finished, is White Nights, and I am currently up to page 97, and I just feel so bad for the protagonist. Like, he is so heartbroken. Here is the line that I thought was especially heartbreaking. Why isn't he you? Why isn't he like you? He's not as good as you, even though I love him more than you. The protagonist really embodies loneliness and heartbreak. He lives by himself, he doesn't speak to anyone, and then one night he meets this woman. But this woman is in love with someone else, and at this point, I think after the 3rd night, she's given up on this other man who still hasn't responded to her letter, and he can't take it anymore. He confesses his love to her. And then the woman's like, wait, but I actually love you as well. And everything seems happy and fine until the next morning, where they stumble across the man that she loved before. The woman just quickly ditches the protagonist, like, wait, this is actually my man. Bye. And then the protagonist is left standing there like, okay, just like leave me, I guess. So I only have like a little bit left of the book before I finish it, so I'll tell you guys how it goes. The next book I have here, which I just started this morning, is Santa and Son, and this is by one of my favorite childhood authors, which is David Walliams, who I just think his books are so funny. And also the illustrations in this book are so pretty, especially the map at the front. This is the map of the toy store which this book takes place in, and I'm currently up to Act 1, Chapter 2. I'm up to page 31 right now, and I just love how there's just little illustrations on every page. So far what I know of this story is that it takes place on Christmas Eve, and it's about this little boy who has been saving up his pocket money to buy a gift from this toy store for his mom. Meanwhile, his mom has been saving up money to buy a golden ticket for this little boy to meet Santa Claus, who supposedly lives at the basement of this toy store. And the mom has just surprised her son with this golden ticket, so he is now really excited, and I'm excited to see what happens from there. The next book I have is a book that I found at a bookstore in Shanghai, and that is The Snow Girl. And I was drawn to this book because of how pretty the cover is. Look at that. And this book also has super pretty illustrations. I see a little fox here. Look at that, chapter 5, Starlight. It just looks so magical, and from what I know of it, it's about this snow girl who comes to life. And it just reminds me of Frozen and how Elsa made a snowman called Olaf and he came to life. So I'm really excited to start this book soon. It definitely has the winter vibes that I'm looking for. And finally, the last book I have on my December TBR is Wuthering Heights. And this is a beautiful cloth-bound edition of this classic. And I just love gothic fiction, which is why I'm so excited to read this book. And I heard that it's a good book to read during winter. And this book looks quite thick as well, so I'm not sure if I'll even be able to finish it this month. This is what it looks like. It looks really cool, and on the back it says, "She was a wild, wicked slip of a girl. She burned too bright for this world." And that just sounds so cool. So yeah, that's all for today, but I'll be sure to give you guys more reading updates later this month. Hey y'all, it is December 19th and I've finished reading Santa and Son. Also, I'm just realizing that I think there's a crack on my phone screen where the camera is, so that's why it has like a little blurry thing on the bottom of the screen, so I'm sorry about that. Hopefully I'll get that fixed sometime. Anyways, on to my book review. So Elvis, the little boy, was about to meet Santa at Londinium, the toy shop, and turns out that Santa was his father, who filled in as a quick replacement to the other Santa, which left for reasons unknown to us. And so that night, instead of going to sleep, Elvis took a night bus all the way back to Londinium, in hopes of finding his father again, because as he left, he saw his father go into like a little basement or something. He was like, is that where he sleeps? Actually, I think it was like a cleaning closet, but it was because the father had nowhere to stay. And even though this toy store is supposed to have top tier security, he managed to break in through the roof, I think, as well as 3 other criminals who were planning to steal all the money because the toy store was closed for one day and that was Christmas. And so they were gonna steal all the money, and Elvis catches them in the act. And these criminals have set a ticking time bomb for midnight in the middle of the store because they were like, how are we gonna cover up the evidence? Well, we can just blow up the whole toy store. This bomb is huge. Not only will it blow up the entire toy store, but like a lot of London as well. So Elvis is like, okay, I need to stop these criminals and I need to stop them from blowing up the toy store. But then he ends up being stuck, as well as the captain, which they kind of kidnapped. They also flushed the keys down the toilet, so not only do Elvis and the captain have no way out, but the 3 criminals also have no way out of the toy store. So everyone's like, okay, if we don't find a way out, we're all going to be blown up. And then they also run into the father, who is still dressed up as Santa for some reason. Meanwhile, the mother is at home, probably sleeping, like having no idea that this is happening. And a lot of chaos ensues after that. We find out that the 3 criminals are actually a mother, a father, and a son. But the son is being heavily mistreated by his parents, and the only reason that they decided to have a son was so that they could have like another accomplice to help do their crimes. And so this son is actually really sad, but eventually the son, his name is Bozo, he ends up joining the other team, which is the heroes, aka Elvis and Santa. Fake Santa, of course. This is him at the end. Anyways, so la-di-da-di-da, a lot of things happen. They eventually end up like digging a big hole with pogo sticks so that they can put the bomb like underground, and so it explodes underground instead of above ground. But as it does that, a pipe ends up becoming broken and then it floods the whole toy store. At this point, I'm thinking, how are they not gonna get all arrested if they're found? And also, how is nobody close by realizing the commotion that's happening in the toy store? This is them almost drowning, but then they end up escaping. I really thought that the criminals were about to drown, but apparently they made it alive, and I don't know how. And you're probably thinking like I did, how is this all gonna get solved? Because it is very chaotic right now. The whole toy store is basically destroyed and flooded. Well, this is how. In comes our superhero, Santa. Yes, the real Santa comes to save the day, and they all fly off in Santa's sleigh. But also, Elvis requests a tiny favor, and that is, can you please use your magic to fix the entire toy store? And Santa eventually caves in and calls all his elves who were asleep, and so they're very grumpy because they're waking up from their sleep after working so hard on all the toys for Christmas. And then they use their magic to fix the entire toy store so it looks like absolutely nothing happened that night. And Elvis gets sent back home, as well as Bozo, but Bozo was like, I actually have nowhere to go because both my parents are really bad criminals. And then Santa was like, I have an idea, why don't you come back with me to the North Pole? And Bozo was so happy to do that, and he also got a new name. Bozo's new name was Big Boss Man. And a lot of the times throughout this book, they would just start breaking it into song. Elvis Presley songs to be exact, because the father loved Elvis Presley, hence why he named his son after him. Oh, and also Elvis ended up buying his mother a pair of roller skates, which made her super happy. And that is the end. Overall, I feel like it reminded me a lot of Home Alone 2, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies. But if you squint your eyes, he could kind of look like Kevin. I think I'd give this book 3.5 stars overall. It was pretty good. But yeah, that's all for today. So I'll see you guys the next time I finish a book. Bye! It is December 27th and I finally finished this book. The reason why it took so long is because I kind of stopped reading it by the time I got up to Bobok. Okay, so the last time I updated you guys on this, I didn't realize it, but I actually did finish reading White Nights, because Bobok is actually a separate short story, which I did not know until I was like a bit into the story and thinking, what does this have to do with White Nights? Like, what happened to the characters and why is this a totally new person? And then I searched it up and turned out this is a different short story, so I was like, okay, that's why. So basically in Bobok, it's about this man who comes across this graveyard where dead people start talking to each other. And my main thought process while reading this short story was that everybody's name is so hard to pronounce. Tarasevich, Lebezianikov, Avdokia Ignatievna, yeah, so I had a bit of a tricky time pronouncing these names. But otherwise, I found it quite interesting. And I feel like I would rate both White Nights and Bobok 3.6 stars. So yeah, I've also been reading The Snow Girl, and I'm currently up to page 215, so I am this far into it. But I have been enjoying this book just so much. It feels absolutely so magical. So this young girl called Tasha is currently living at this valley with her mom and dad to help out her grandpa, who is currently sick. The cold winter is not helping with his sickness because he just keeps coughing. But one day, Tasha and her grandfather build together a snow girl, just like one of the snow girls in the stories that her grandpa tells her. And because Tasha has felt so lonely ever since that incident at, what was it, like, it was at this place, at this beach, where she got left by her cousins and friends when the tide came in and she almost drowned. Ever since then, she goes back into her shell and doesn't speak to anyone. Because of that, she wishes for her snow girl to come to life, and that night it does. And every night since then, she's gone on adventures with this snow girl. But at the same time, winter is getting colder, The snow girl ends up telling Tasha that when the snowdrops bloom in midwinter, she must leave. And Tasha does not want the snow girl to leave at all because she's the only friend that she has. She's trying to find a way to keep Aliana, the snow girl, from leaving. And by doing that, she wishes upon this stone, which could be magical, that Aliana will not leave and that they'll find a way for her to stay. But in the meantime, the winter is getting colder and everyone is suffering, including the people that live in the valley and also her grandfather and the animals around them, because this winter is colder than ever before. And I feel like this book really reminds me of Frozen and how Arendelle was in deep snow when Elsa left. And I'm really loving it so far, and I'm really excited to see what happens towards the end. I've also been reading Wuthering Heights, which I'm currently up to page 56, and I am really enjoying this so far. I was surprised though that this book wasn't actually told from the perspective of the woman, Catherine Earnshaw, because of the back of the book. That's just what I assumed. But it's actually told from the perspective of this man who is learning about the story between Catherine and Heathcliff through Mrs. Dean. So from chapter 4 onwards, as of what I've read, it's been Mrs. Dean telling their story. But as you can see, I'm not very far into it so far, so I'm excited to keep reading. It is December 31st, which means that it is officially the last day of the year. And I have finished reading The Snow Girl. Wow, this book was truly incredible. What a story about loneliness, friendship, trust, acceptance, letting go, and knowing when to reach out. I would highly recommend reading this book during winter. It is just so beautifully written and I just love it with all my heart. Definitely a 5-star reading experience. As for Wuthering Heights, I'm up to around page 120, and Catherine is definitely a very interesting character. I definitely won't be able to finish that book before the end of this month, so that'll have to go into January. Next time I see you guys, it'll be 2026, which is so crazy. Happy New Year's, everybody! Before I end this video, I wanted to just talk about some of my New Year's resolutions. I love making New Year's resolutions every year, and I have been doing so for the past 4 or 5 years. And I mostly like doing this not with the main goal of trying to achieve all of these goals, but because on the last day of the year, I like to look back at them and see how different is what I wanted at the beginning of the year with now. It really shows how my inner values have shifted or stayed the same throughout the year. So I'm going to be sharing some of them with you guys today, but I won't be sharing the more personal ones. So the first one I have is make new friends at uni, because this year I'm gonna be starting uni, which is super exciting, and I really want to make friends inside my course and outside of my course. And moving into this new chapter of my life, me and my friends from school are all going to different unis, different cities, which is exciting but also a little bit scary. So hopefully I can make some friends to share this new and exciting journey with. My second goal is to attend my lectures and try to attend all of them unless I really can't make it, because I'm the type of person who learns better when I'm actually physically there, which is why 2020 was not my year, because we mostly did Zoom online learning. Because of the pandemic, we had a lockdown and we couldn't go to in-person school. So yeah, actually attend my lectures and hopefully not drop out and hopefully pass this year. My next resolution is also on uni. I might just stay in this topic for now, and that is join clubs. Preferably I want to join a dance club because I used to love doing dance. I say used to, and that was a month ago. For 5 years, from grade 7 to grade 12, I loved doing dance at my school. So hopefully there's a dance club that I can join. Also want to join some kind of art club or book club. because those are my main interests. But if I don't join an art club, I still want to be making art regularly because I just love painting, especially oil painting. Next goal is to regularly draw in my sketchbook because when I finished art class at the end of last year, my art teacher gifted me this beautiful purple sketchbook which I really want to make the most of this year and just sketch whatever I feel inspires me at the time. My next goal is to FaceTime my friends frequently. As I said before, we're all moving to different places this year, but I still want to keep in touch with my friends because they mean a lot to me. And I really want to just FaceTime them and get updates on their lives, see how they're doing with uni. My next goal is to try and not buy more than 3 new clothes. I really want to try not to buy new clothes unless I really need to because I'm not a fan of fast fashion, and I also feel like I already have pretty much everything I need to get through each season. For example, this exact outfit I've worn like so many times this year. I feel like that's all I need because I also love re-wearing my outfits. And especially with moving into my dorm at uni, I'm gonna have a really small wardrobe. It's best if I have a very minimal amount of clothes I can just mix and match. And also, following on with that, if I do want new clothes, I will have to sew them myself because I love sewing. I love making my own clothes, and I feel like when I put the time into making my own clothes, then I'm more likely to wear them more often. Also because I can make exactly what I want and exactly my size. My next goal is to finish reading the Wings of Fire series. And if you didn't know from my monthly reading videos, I actually started reading Wings of Fire last year because it's a series that I've always wanted to read, but I wish I read when I was a kid. But you know what? I'm enjoying it just as much as I would have now. And I finished reading the 10th book, so out of the 15 Wings of Fire books I only have 5 books left, and I really want to finish reading that series because I just love it so much. My next goal is to rewatch Stranger Things, particularly the first 4 seasons because I just love that show so much. Actually, particularly the first 2 seasons because those 2 was so good. My next goal is to learn how to cook more delicious meals because I feel like as of right now I only know how to cook like a few meals, enough to get me by at uni, but I also want to branch out a bit and learn how to cook some more meals so I can change up my meals a bit. My next goal is to write something every day, whether that be something in my diary or creative writing for my short stories or my longer books. I just want to write something every day, and also because I really want to improve my creative writing this year. My next goal is to donate things that I don't need anymore, which I think is something really important because if I'm not going to use something, then somebody else could appreciate it and give it a new life. Next goal, which is somehow get a new bike. I'm saying new bike, but I never owned a bike in the first place. I just love biking and it would be really nice if I had my own bike. So maybe I could like save up for one or get one for my birthday. But yeah, that's more of like a wish list than a goal. But I put that on there anyways. And my last goal that I'm gonna share here is film more YouTube videos. I am absolutely ecstatic about the fact that I started this YouTube channel last year. The fact that there are 157 of you guys subscribed to my channel actually just blows my mind. That is so many people, and I'm so grateful that you guys want to watch my videos. Love filming them so much, so I do want to continue that in this year. Yeah, that is all for this video. If you enjoyed this additional little section, wish you all a very happy New Year's and all the best of luck for 2026. See you guys in my next video. Bye!